One aspect of Raven Software's classic Heretic which I've always found to be standout is its level design. I know some people can't stand Heretic's frequent use of stone textures, and I get that it all kind of blends into each other by the middle of the third episode, yet I find myself intrigued and fascinated by the layout and executions of the levels within the game. Dare I say I even think the original 3 episodes are a bit more consistent than what Doom 2 offered up, which released several months earlier. Heretic just has a strong sense of direction in its level design that sets it apart from id Software's offerings. Doom's levels felt great to blast around in, but Heretic strive to tell a bit more story in the worlds they craft. Spaces in the game feel like actual places, and at points it feels like you're immersed in a world that's been created. I feel like the game nails this. It also puts a fair few of Heretic's levels shoulder to shoulder with the best levels in Doom. I think no level showcases this better than the first outing for Heretic. The dock serves as Heretic's opening salvo, and it does a lot to showcase the new toys and features that it'll be bringing to the table. The original Doom saw you step into a lonely, sterile space base filled with technology and screens. Heretic ditches all of that. The level instead presents a more atmospheric offering, the use of lighting and pronounced shadows across the floor signalling a darker ambience. The wooden pillars, the stone walls, the ivy growing around the titular docks. A touch I really appreciate is in the opening room how these shadows look like they're trying to be a bit more realistic. It just adds to the creepy vibe. This world feels so different and so removed from that Doom presented. It feels like this place once teemed with life. It feels like a more lived in space that's long been abandoned. The levels sometimes feel like they should house NPCs and they wouldn't feel out of place. This is something that Heretic will do over and over throughout its levels. It will go above and beyond in creating spaces that feel more realistic and more grounded. The opening level showcases this in a really fun way. The use of textures emphasises this, and the architecture of the spaces, the curves and the meandering pathways feel like they're built with purpose. It feels like a boat could come into the dock here, and you can see in the world how that would work. Even dropping into the water causes a reaction from the world. Splashing effects and a water splashing sound makes it feel like the water has depth. It's a step up in immersion that makes the world feel more real, like you're in it and you're actually making a difference. I also like how in this level there are spaces which overlook the docks, teasing items that are just out of your reach. The level is designed in a circular way. You'll be coming back to these spaces later on if you're curious enough to find the way back. The level features a lot of interconnected spaces. You can look out on other parts of a level and see into future sections. It feels organic and feels like a logical way to design this level. Spaces feed into each other, and it reminds me a lot of the Knee Deep in the Dead episode from the original Doom. A lot of these spaces feel like they have a purpose to their existence. I also appreciate that this level showcases some of the aspects which will differentiate it from its older cousin. If you find your way out beyond the docks, you'll be pushed around by the environment, introducing a potential hazard for down the road. It's a fun way to train the player early on. I also like how the gargoyles are able to chase you through the level pretty easily. The layout gives them a huge advantage in stalking you, and it can lead to some pretty fun moments. The docks, in my opinion, stand shoulder to shoulder with some of the best opening levels in 1990s shooters. It sets an atmosphere and aura that comes to define Heretic. I love the layouts, the hidden secrets, and the way that the level organically pushes you through it. In the hands of weaker developers, this could easily have been a mess, but I feel there's a great balance of open spaces, tight corridors, and rooms which look upon rooms to keep things interesting. I really like the docks, and I feel that it does a standout job of setting Heretic up. Whether you prefer this kind of opening level or something a bit more action orientated like Entryway, I definitely feel that Heretic sticks the landing on its opening outing. In my opinion, one of the things that Heretic does really well as a game, it creates this sense of atmosphere in these sort of hollow halls here. You can see the use of the beams, the shadows on the floor. I love the way that those shadows are kind of all pointed, even though like they don't really need to be. It just kind of makes everything feel a bit more well realized. And I like this space here, the use of woods, the use of the stone. It feels different. And when you step outside here, you see the pier, you see the different sort of dock positions where boats and little sort of things would come to shore and where things would be unloaded. Everything here feels like it has a purpose, and when you're looking around, it feels like this space is so well realized. And I really appreciate that, because when you're kind of looking around, you can see there's spaces looking over this opening area. You can see through the fence there's a space there that you can't quite get to. It makes the level feel that much bigger. And like I said, one of the things that I really appreciate is that this feels like a lived-in space. It feels like this was once a bustling dock with with people bringing their goods on to the land. It's one of those spaces that really kind of showcases what Heretic is going to be doing different from Doom. This, in my opinion, would never be a Doom level. The layout of this, it doesn't feel Doomy, it feels different, and that's what I like about Heretic. A lot of people criticize Heretic's later levels for being too big, too expansive, but for me, what I really like is that they made the decision to home in on a particular theme, and they're like, we are going to build the world around these themes, and that is it. And Doom does that to an extent, but the thing with Doom's levels is they never feel quite super realistic, whereas this feels a bit more deliberate. There's skulls there hanging off the roof. You can see the flames on top of the pedestals. There's a lot of attention to detail in the finer aspects of Heretic, which help to really build in the story of what this world is. Now, of course, not all of this works super successfully. Some parts of it fall a bit short, but I think that even the most harsh critics of Heretic can say these levels are laid out with a bit more sort of focus on delivering that sort of realistic medieval interpretation of the Doom layout. These areas here, for example, look at the cobwebs as we're kind of going through these spaces. It really makes it feel like this has been abandoned for a while. You know, this is not a welcoming space. I also appreciate the mixture of lighting here. The one room is dark, one room is light. Now, of course, I'm not saying this is the best Doom design level ever, but what I am saying is that when you're looking at an opening level like this and you're comparing it to the likes of Hangar and Entryway, this level sets the tone, I feel, for what Heretic really wants to achieve. There's a lot of story being told through these levels and spaces, even though there isn't that much attention to detail. That, you know, it's not like modern games where like there's a load of things to point what's going on. You just have to look at these spaces to see that yes, this is trying to feel like a medieval keep. I also like the shadows there in the middle, how like the candles are sort of positioned so that the shadows are super large, and the flickering of those candles as well. I like that you can see down there, so you immediately know what that switch did. Something that annoys me about some Doom engine games in particular, you'll hit a switch in one part of the level and then across the level something will happen. So I think it's a pretty good idea to show the player what the switch actually does. We'll head down here, and you can see this leads us to the space which overlooks the opening docks. Again, it's all very circular in design. Spaces sort of lead into spaces that you've previously visited, so it's very easy to get around this level. Very, very difficult, in my opinion, to actually get lost on this one, which very good for an opening level. Of course, if you pay a bit of attention, you can make your way out here through this secret teleport, and immediately you'll see that, yes, we are being pushed here. And this is teaching players who make their way out here that the environment is going to be a bit more dangerous in Heretic. It's not simply going to be a case of walking over pain floors, but the environment is actually actively going to be moving you around at points. And also you can see back into that area there. So you always feel like in this level you know where you are. There's landmarks that guide the way, and I think that's very, very important when you're creating a level like this. You're trying to set the tone, but you're also trying to make sure that players don't get too lost in the world that you're creating. I think the docks is a very good opening level. It teaches the player everything they need to know about Heretic. It gives the player enough toys to play with that they can understand what is going to be happening in the game. And I also just love the design. The layout is very intricate. It's really fun to play this in multiplayer, as I've been doing through the recent remaster. And I just feel overall this level delivers a very, very polished, very, very finely executed opening experience that I think stands among some of the best from the 1990s. This is a very strong opening salvo from Heretic, in my opinion, and I feel that it gets very overlooked by a lot of Doom players, but it is that good in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments.